What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sector for Nerds, and welcome to another episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars Retro Discussions. Today we're going to be talking about Clone Wars Season 1, Episode 21, Liberty on Ryloth. Now, if y'all could do me a couple things. First up, make sure you guys like this video. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Also, leave your questions and comments down below of this video or in my community post that I posted a couple weeks back. Because we are so close to the end of Season 1, I'm going to be making a video that goes up on Christmas Day, you guys, where we're going to talk about Clone Wars Season 1 as a whole, everything that I liked, things that I didn't like, and just all my opinions on it. I can't wait for that video, you guys, but I want to get you guys involved with that as well, so if you have any comments, leave them below. This is pretty much going to be like my last call for doing it, because after this video goes up, it's going to be within that time period that I start making the video, so the sooner you guys do it, the better. Now with that, you guys, let's get into the episode itself. This episode was directed by Rob Coleman and written by Henry Gilroy. The cookie for this episode: compromised is a virtue to be cultivated, not a weakness to be despised. And now, you guys, the moment you all have been waiting for. The man who is very quickly raising his stock here on this channel. The man that is becoming a legend right before our very eyes. Intro guy, take it away. Republic victory at hand. Clone troopers under the command of the Jedi have successfully invaded the separatist-occupied world of Ryloth. Anakin Skywalker battles the enemies in the skies, while Obi-Wan Kenobi frees villages from the grip of vile separatist leader Wat Tambor. Now, Jedi General Mace Windu leads the attack on enemy lines in the final offensive to liberate the capital city of Lasu. You've done it again, intro guy. Thank you so much. And it is that time, you guys. We are here at the final part of the Ryloth journey. Like intro guy said, Anakin took care of the air assault. Obi-Wan has been freeing villages, small towns. And now it's up to Mace Windu to take the capital. One of the obvious things to enjoy when it comes to this episode is the fact that this is the first time that we get to see Mace Windu in action. And he runs up to the front of the ATTE and cracks the glass with the Force to get the pilot out of there. It's like you see that moment, oh, we're in for an episode, aren't we? This is Jedi Master Mace Windu in action right now. The guy who's, pretty much like the second biggest Jedi in the Order, the second most powerful Jedi in the Order besides Yoda. I want to give a shout out to Terrence Carson, who does the voice of Mace Windu throughout the Clone Wars, because he's another one of those guys, when it comes to this show, like whenever I think of Mace, I don't just think of Samuel Jackson, I think of Terrence Carson as well. And that's very big shoes to fill, you guys. Like Samuel Jackson, think about how big of a star that he is. And, we even hear for him as Mace Windu in the Clone Wars movie. But like I said, whenever I think of Mace's voice, I also think of Terrence and the incredible work that he did on this show. Speaking of things that we see for the first time in this show, I believe this is the first time we've seen the ATRTs in the show. I mean, they're just running around all over the place. They're super quick. They have that incredible jumping ability as well. It's such a unique form of weaponry for the Republic.
Should we run? It could be better if we just surrender now.
But you guys, it's about that time. We've seen him in a couple of episodes before this, very little, but now he is here to be the final boss of this battle. I give you Wat Tambor. So when I was watching through this episode again, I was honestly expecting a lot more, but we didn't get it. We got it maybe once or twice throughout the episode, and I think I can kind of understand why they would have made the decision to not have him do that all the time, because if half of the episode was him just doing that, I feel like that might have turned people off. Although I've gotten to a point now where I unironically love it. Remember when I said a couple weeks ago that imagine listening to a Wat Tambor podcast and how terrible that would be because half the time you'd just be doing that? I take it back. I want everything with Wat Tambor. I want the podcast, a show, everything. Just the entire time be like, But yes, Wat Tambor is here, in all seriousness, and we very much, this episode does a good job of portraying him as, like, such a bad dude, because he's sitting here trying to, like, not only destroy, this, pretty much, we get to a point where he starts destroying the planet, and we'll get to that, but, like, he robs them of everything, right? He's trying to steal all their treasure. He's a very greedy guy, and it's something that kind of, causes some, his downfall a little bit later, but we get to see Count Dooku have a couple of interactions with him via hologram in this episode. Dooku's upset because he's like, your technical droid has told me how pitiful of a job you've done protecting our investment here on Ryloth. And Wat Tambor is, like, confident that he hasn't lost yet, because they do find out that the last battle that they had, and when I say the last battle, I'm talking about at the beginning of this episode with the ATRTs and everything, it was a costly battle, and Tambor was under the impression that the Jedi didn't have enough troops to take the city. And it turned out that he was right, because, Mace has to enlist some help later, we'll get to that. But Dooku's sitting there like, dude, you're no match for Master Windu. Could there have been a more obvious statement in this episode?
That droid exaggerates. I have not lost yet.
You are no match for Master Windu. Do not become greedy, Emir Tambor. Take what valuables you can and destroy everything else.
And Dooku just says, look, just take what valuables you can, destroy everything else. He said, we can turn this whole thing into, like, a political spin, right? Like, the ruins of Ryloth will demonstrate to the galaxy the cost of a Republic victory. Even though y'all are the ones that are doing all the damage, but yeah, whatever. So yeah, the Republic has this meeting. Like, Anakin's there, Yularen's there, Windu's there, Chancellor Palpatine is there. I mean, it's all, like, holograms and stuff, but you know what I mean.
With our forces stretched so thinly, I'm gonna enlist the help of the Freedom Fighters, led by Cham Syndulla. His fight against the droids has made him a symbol of freedom for the people.
Cham Syndulla was a radical before the war. He is very unpredictable.
He can't be trusted. I know Syndulla seeks to gain power. We were political rivals.
I'll leave the politics to you, Senator. I'm gonna do whatever I can to help these people.
Another person that's at this meeting is Senator Orn Free Taa. I think this is our first episode with him around. He's a Twi'lek senator, and he's very much against Cham helping them, because the way he sees it, right, like, oh, Cham's, he's just looking to gain power. It's for his own political agenda. I mean, they did say they were political rivals, and then there was a point where I started to fall asleep, and Windu's like, look, leave the politics to you, Senator. I'm going to do what I can to help free these people. And I'm like, thank you, Mace. Thank you for waking me up and out of the sleep that I was just about to fall under. I don't like Senate episodes. And fortunately, we really haven't gotten any yet, but we're going to get to some in it. Oh my gosh, I don't care. But that's not this episode. Tambor launches the hyena bombers, and I believe this is our first time seeing those as well, you guys. They're basically like a modified version of the vulture droid, and instead of one head, they have two. The idea, I think, was just like make them a little bit larger, make them like bombers. The designs for them are pretty cool, but they're used to do some very, very bad things, because they start bombing villages, and it's like, oh man, so this is the end game that the Separatists are playing right now, huh?
Sir, enemy ships are entering our sector. Damage report. There's no tactical damage, sir. They didn't hit us. They bombed the village. Make contact with General Windu.
I did write down in my notes when we saw Emir Tambor towards the middle of this episode, I'm like, how come he's not malfunctioning more? Just like at least once per conversation make him go. So let's talk about Mace Windu meeting Cham Syndulla and introducing us to the character of Cham Syndulla. He's a man who seems to be a hero amongst his people. You see when they walk into their hideout that there's this little girl that runs up to him. Obviously, it's not his own kid, but I think what that moment was supposed to represent is like you have these children that look up to them as like a superhero, right? Someone that's gonna try and help free their planet, get them out of this state that they've been put in, this occupation that the Separatists have them under. And we get to a point where Mace and Cham are having a conversation, And Cham is obviously very against, getting Republic help. He's like, I don't trust Senator Taa. I don't trust his way of doing things. And then we get the transmission from Commander Pons, which, by the way, Commander Pons, first time we see him in this show. And he says, look, the droids have, begun a firing bomb campaign. Several villages in our sector have been destroyed. And then that moment is what causes Cham to go, all right, make the arrangements. I'll talk with them. But there's this line that Cham says that really stood out to me where he goes, another armed occupation is not a free Ryloth. And that's something that kind of makes you think like, wow, like it really gives you perspective on the way that Cham's thinking about things. And it kind of makes you go like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, if there's another occupation here, who's in the right? Who's in the wrong?
How long before I am fighting you, Master Jedi?
And then, you guys, we get to see the diplomatic side of Mace Windu continue to shine. Not only is he a great warrior, but he's also a great negotiator. This is the scene where we also get a cameo from Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano as they're taking on the hyena bombers. Mace is, chatting with them like, look, there's going to be nothing. They start bickering back and forth, Cham and Taa. And Mace is like, look, there's going to be nothing left to lead if you two refuse to work together. And he basically makes them go, okay, Senator, these people are afraid of helping us because they're afraid of another armed occupation. And he's like, all right, look, once Ryloth is free of the droids, the Republic forces will leave Ryloth. And then Mace turns to Cham and goes, Cham, what assurance can you give Senator Taa that you will not try to seize power? And Cham's like, look, I just want to see my people free, Master Jedi. I believe in democracy. That's right, Cham, let him know.
I love democracy.
My allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy!
Then we go back to not malfunctioning Wat Tambor, and they're collecting all the treasure. You can see in the background, I didn't notice this until I watched through the featurette for this episode, but one of the things that they're carrying onto the ship is the Ark of the Covenant, which is very much like a Indiana Jones style reference. I haven't seen those movies in a long time, but Dooku gets all mad because he's like, Tambor, why haven't you evacuated? And he's like, our exit strategy is taking more time to put into action. And then Dooku's like sitting there really mad, like, I want you out of the city before the Republic arrives. Once Master Windu has invaded the capital, you're gonna bomb it from afar. Am I understood? And the tactical droid that's with Wat Tambor, who I very much plays a big role as a villain in this episode as well. We saw a tactical droid in the last episode. We see a new one here. These droids have a level of intelligence to them that regular battle droids don't have. And Tambor just looks at him after the Dooku transmission and goes, you won't do anything until I give the order. And the droid just looks at him and goes, we have our orders. Tambor orders for all of the people to get put outside of the city. Not like in front of the bridge, but like along like the city walls and stuff. I think the mindset that he had was the Jedi, they won't be able to get over the bridge. In his mind anyway, this is what he's thinking. They won't be able to get over the bridge, so their next strategy is probably going to be to like open fire on us from afar. But if we keep the villagers in a certain position, they're not going to be able to open fire without hurting them. These separatists are freaking cowards, I tell ya. One of my favorite scenes in this episode as well is where we get to the attack on the Capitol and Mace, they sneak into a transport that's carrying treasure. Cham tells them it's risky to do. They're scanned while crossing, but while they get over there, obviously they scan that something's in there, so the droids were doing their job right. But then they get out, Mace gets out of there, takes out the droids, he gets cover fire from the boys, and then they turn off the bridge. And there's this really nice scene where, like, he pushes the clones away, and then he has to, like, run across everything as the bridge is falling. He's jumping onto the tank, jumps onto the droid staff, and crashes it into another, gets back on the platform. There's no music during the scene either, so it's just, like, background noise. It was so good. And then we get to see Mace in action with his lightsaber, which is something we really hadn't seen yet. Seeing that MFS blade shining brightly. Freaking just like slams a droid to the ground and everything. Like, oh my goodness. Meanwhile, the two clones that he's been traveling with the whole episode, they get the bridge up.
Hey, you're not authorized.
Bridge is up, sir.
Take these droids. I'll go find Wat Tambor.
The tactical droid is leaving without Tambor. He's just like, ready my ship. That Tambor is a fool. And then Tambor's like shortly behind him. And he's like, my ship.
I am afraid Emir Tambor refused to retreat in time.
That is unfortunate. Order our bombers to destroy the capital immediately.
Now, I will say, going back to the 8 years old, when I was 8 years old trope that I've been on for this entire season so far, I remember getting to the point in this episode right about when Mace is about to get to him. And I'm like, man, we've been after this Wat Tambor guy now for 3 episodes. Like, hopefully we can capture this guy. Like, he's raining havoc on this planet. Like, he's evaded us long enough. And it gets that point when the droid leaves him, and I'm like, we're gonna get him. We're gonna get him. And Mace charges him, he takes out the 2 super battle droids that are guarding him, and I'm like, let's go, Mace. I'm like, oh my gosh, we got him.
Surrender.
General Windu, perhaps we can come to a compromise.
Not when I hold all the cards.
But then if you look out into the distance, and they shot this brilliantly, where you see Mace, like, you know, holding the saber to him, and right out of the top right corner of your screen, you can see like 4 bombers making their way towards the capital to bombard it. And Tambor's like, it appears that surrender... Ooh, he actually did it. Let's go. About time. It appears that surrender is unnecessary. We will all perish for the glory of the Separatist Alliance. And then Anakin and Ahsoka make their second cameo in this episode, taking out the bombers.
We will all perish for the glory of the Separatist Alliance.
Close, Master.
Isn't it always, Snips?
Cham and his boys show up, and we've captured Wat Tambor. This was a fun episode, you guys. I think it's really interesting because while this was a really good episode, I would say that this is probably my least favorite of the Ryloth arc, I think only just because of how good those first 2 episodes were. Like, the stuff with Anakin and Ahsoka in that first episode was awesome. Last week's episode was incredible with Obi-Wan Kenobi, Waxer, Boyle, Numa, that whole thing was awesome. But again, what I love so much about this arc is that each episode had a different feel to it. It had different characters involved with it, but it was all leading towards the one same goal of retaking the planet Ryloth and capturing Wat Tambor. And we did both.
What are your terms for surrender?
They're unconditional.
Agreed.
I thank you, Master Jedi. Today, all of Ryloth thanks you.
You've earned your freedom, General. All of you.
As the Clone Wars goes on with, you know, a little bit of foreshadowing, he does you kind of see that he is kind of a jerk. And you can even kind of see it like a little bit throughout the prequel movies as well, but this was an episode that really showed that, like, okay, well, at the end of the day, Mace might be a little bit of a jerk. He might, you know, be a little dumb at times. At the end of the day, there's a reason that he's in a position that he's in, why he is second to Yoda, why he is such a powerful Jedi. And I remember, like, when I was little, watching Mace Windu, like, in the movies as well, I always wanted to see him in action more. I always thought it was cool, like, how he had a purple lightsaber. Purple was never my favorite color, but I was always curious on why he had one. Obviously, as you get older and you kind of understand, like, the, you know, what actually went down there and why he got it, like, you know, but it's just, like, I don't see it as a bad thing. I just find it funny. And for those who don't know, the reason why Mace Windu has a purple lightsaber, like, obviously there's a whole bunch of lore in there about why purple lightsabers are a thing, but ultimately it comes down to Samuel Jackson just wanting a purple lightsaber. He wanted to be able to stand out in that battle scene, so whenever he's watching the movie, he can pick out where he is, you know? I remember when I was little, and one of the things that we used to do whenever we'd be over at my grandparents' house is he painted up these poles, very skinny poles. He would paint them and make them look like lightsabers. And I remember, like, we had red lightsabers and we had green lightsabers. And, you know, eventually he made us blue ones as well. And I remember saying that I wanted to have a purple lightsaber because I wanted to pretend like I was Mace Windu, you know, one of the best Jedi warriors, duelists that there are. And so I would carry around that purple lightsaber at times and I'd pretend like I was Mace Windu. Growing up, I always thought Mace Windu was a very cool character. And if you go back and watch the Clone Wars micro series as well, he was a freaking badass in that show. Like, the dude takes takes on an entire army of super battle droids without a lightsaber. It's amazing. I think that was the stuff that really made me enjoy Mace Windu. Just thought he was like one of the coolest mother effers, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, you guys, I think that's gonna wrap us up on this week, all my thoughts, and thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Next week, you guys, we're gonna be talking about the season finale of Clone Wars Season 1 and the introduction of a character that is gonna become a fan favorite throughout this show. Thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe. Share this video with others to help support the channel, and I will see you guys next time.